some ambience. Now, one of the things I'm trying to plan out for one of my stories at the moment is I'm trying to work out exactly how I'm going to get my character from a situation where, let me turn the rain sounds down a little bit, they're very loud. There you go. I'm trying to get my character from a situation where she's got to the mainland and there's a whole load of stuff that's happened, and she's lost people along the way, and she's got problems with, you know, her family and things like that. And the end of the book starts at the beginning of the next book. And what I'm trying to figure out at the moment is exactly how do I bridge that gap from her being this scared teenager to this dignified warrior. And I think that one of the journeys I'm going to put her on is by increasing the amount of monsters that she has to fight. Now, if monsters are your thing, then that's the place to come and have a look, because I've got lots of monsters in my books. Now, I had a reader tell me that they loved the monsters, and were the monsters there for a particular reason. And what was really cool was not only did they identify that there was a specific reason why there's monsters there, but she got it. It was awesome. She was able to actually explain the purpose of them. Now, one of the things I'm trying to figure out is what kind of monsters do I want? I've already got a long list of different monsters, but sometimes having ones that are in lots of other books like griffins and mermaids can get a little bit tedious, a little bit boring. They're fun to write about, but they're not what I would say monsters that, or creatures that would entice me to read, because we've read so much about them. I feel like you know, I have one sitting on my downstairs sofa. So this is what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and write it so that she has to face a monster. I'm trying to work out how that would look and whether she'd do it on her own, and if doing it on her own is better. Sorry, my fringe is really annoying. Whether doing it on her own is going to be better than her doing it with people who could help her, and what one she would learn most from. Does she need to learn anything from it? And if she doesn't need to learn anything from it, then you need to think about what is the point of the monster. So I think probably what I'm going to start off with is by doing probably a mind map. So if you're not familiar with a mind map, they're pretty straightforward. And what I like to do with my mind maps is I normally put something like a word, just a random word in the middle that kind of links to the topic. Oh my gosh, I look like I've got some weird queef going down the front. So I'm going to just write the word monster in the center of my page, because I think that's the starting point. So like that. And what I'm going to do around it is I'm actually going to start putting some ideas. And this is one of the writing steps that lots of people forget about. Yeah, they read the book and they go, oh yeah, that's really good. Or they read a book and go, oh, that's rubbish, didn't like that. And what they forget is actually a lot of the writing actually happens in places like this, in stages like this, where you have an empty page to try and formulate your words on. So I have used some specific monsters in my novels. let's mix it up a little bit. Let's design a monster from scratch, but using some elements that we already know about. So I'm going to start doing a mind map on that. So the first thing I'm going to do is like maybe dragon, because dragon is a very well-known monster. I love dragons. They're seen throughout a whole load of different mythologies across the globe. And whilst I really love the mythological Chinese dragon and what it stands for, I don't feel as familiar with that one as I do with the European one. And whilst the European one is quite traditional, I want to try and make it less traditional. So maybe make it really small. So maybe cat size dragon. And then I need to think about, well, is that really the way I'm going to go? What other options are there? So perhaps I could go, maybe it's a crossbreed, like a dog. Maybe it's like a crossbreed between, maybe it's a crossbreed between two different types of dragons. Or it could be a crossbreed between another mythological creature, like perhaps, I don't know, I already have manticores in my book, so perhaps it could be a crossbreed between a manticore and a dragon. One of the things to think about when you kind of come to something like that is, well, what would that look like? And is that something that people will be able to envision in their eyes, in their minds, in terms of what it would look like? Not sure. Let's see. So how about we think about what a manticore actually looks like? So manticores they have the tail scorpion. And my manticore that I have in my books, Vamu, he has this really big curled up scorpion tail that really reaches far over his head. It's really domineering, really scary looking. And then they have a head of a lion. So you've got this contrast between the sort of shiny surface of the scorpion tail with the venom dripping at the end, and the fluffy, furry manes side of a lion's head with all the shaggy mane falling about his ears. And then they have the front two legs as well tend to be a kestrel or an eagle. So perhaps we can mix up the manticore with the dragon then. So what would a dragon look like? Well, if we go with the European style dragon, the dragon would normally have a full set of scales all over the body, spines all down their back, breathes fire. So, and just sticking with these, oh, really big teeth. Can't forget those. Should we include a forked tongue? It's all in the mouth. Let's go for it. Okay, so we've got so far forked tongue, scales, spines, breathes fire. That's the dragon side. And we have scorpion tail, lion head, front legs, eagle, which would be the manticore side. So what if we start mixing and matching some of these? So I'll show you what I've written so far. So you can see I've got my little list there. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start actually joining them up and seeing which ones work well together. And you can start seeing this is how the mind map is building. I like the idea of it breathing fire, but rather than breathing fire, what about breathing venom? Like a gas or venom that could be ignited. Okay. I quite like the scorpion tail idea. Can incorporate that as part of the dragon's tail, so maybe they can kind of like just basically become one thing. Maybe a scorpion tail with spines on the back. I like the idea of the dragon having scales all over it. I'm not so keen on the idea of a dragon having a lion head or a mane full of hair. It seems a bit too flammable. If it's going to be the size of a cat, though, maybe that's what it normally looks like. And then when it is feeling aggressive and it wants to attack, that's when the scales suddenly form over the top. I think there's a couple of other little features that we can add to this to make it even more believable. So if it's going to be a dragon, then I always presume that dragons, would have scales that were so thick that you couldn't pierce them. That's why you had to have specific dragon hunters that were trained with specific weapons to go and like kill the beasts. So perhaps we could have it so that these dragons actually kind of, maybe either work together in small prides, or they maybe use their cat-like appearance to, kind of get what they want. Or it could be that they, are solitary creatures, like cats tend to be anyway, and they have scales that are so impenetrable that is what keeps them safe. So it doesn't matter if they're on their own. So what some of the things that you need to think about when you're actually trying to create a character, even if it's a benign character or a character that isn't necessarily like integral to the story, a character that's not going to be like a main character or anything like that, one that can either be killed off or one that's actually going to help make the story move forward, is actually think about, well, how does it fit with the rest of the story? How does it fit with the characters? Does it fit with the physics of the world? There's no point in having a world that you've created the physics for that actually don't make any sense. And it's okay to have a world that has completely upside down, topsy-turvy physics. And those worlds do really well, especially when those worlds are consistent in the way that they present their physics. And what I'm talking about with physics is things like the mass of things, things like the speed of things. When you're talking about the way that animals interact, the way that humans interact, the way that the religion of the world works and the world order works, all of that needs to make sense. And so if you have bits that are out of place from your world, then it's going to kind of feel disjointed and not really fit or put together properly. So a good example of that would be, think of a very typical urban love romance rom-com style TV series or story. Let's think about I don't know, something like Frasier. And if you watch Frasier, great. If you haven't watched it, it's basically some American psychiatrist who lives with his family, who looks after his family, and it's a silly series. Anyway, if you suddenly start putting other elements in it, like for example a dragon, or I don't know, a magical rainforest outside his window, when they don't live anywhere near rainforest, it's going to feel like it doesn't really work, and therefore it's going to make the story not fit properly. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to try and work out how I can make this person or this character fit with the story. So I've got at the moment a dragon. I would like to give the dragon a name. That's going to come a bit later when I've worked out whether this is going to be a dragon that's going to be fearsome, or whether it's going to be a sweet little pussycat, or whether it's going to be depending on its mood. And one of the things I do want to do is think about what other skills it might have. Now, in my world, magic definitely exists, but it's not magic how you and I know magic. It's magic that's more closely related to the manipulation of atoms and the ability to do that. So I might put in there something like can turn invisible. That would work in my world. Now then, one of the things that I like to have on hand is actually a couple of websites that I use for things like world builders and world generators, and I also like using thesaurus as well. And both of those are really useful because what they do is they give you ideas about other ways that you could describe a character, but also different words you can use to blend together. So two unique words that are known words in our world that you then maybe split and then join together to make brand new words, but make sense with the world. So I'm just going to put can turn invisible, but I'm trying to work out how that would fit in terms of the names and the words that I might split. I feel like things like Invisicat are quite obvious and not really far out there. And I think that that's not really going to make much sense in terms of interest for the reader. Whilst I'm having a little think, why don't you have a go and see if you can get started creating one of the characters for you? And what I will do is, whilst I'm doing this, I'm going to turn the sound up on the rain a little bit so you've got a bit of background noise as well. Okay. All right, so I've added a couple more bits on here. So I've started looking at names and some ideas for names, what I could call either my dragon or groups of dragons. And a couple of the things that I've added onto here are a little bit more of an insight as to what kind of personality or characterization that they might have, whether they're going to be like really aggressive or whether they're just going to, you know, be pretty chill, and whether they live together or individually. I think I'm going to probably go down the lines of potentially having a more lion-esque type character, where, as in like character personality, where they like living together. And one of the other animals that I'm also introducing is a kirin. Now, a kirin is actually a mythological creature, and it's something that I really like the sound of. So I'm actually going to put them possibly at odds with each other somehow. And I'm thinking that their battles are going to be pretty epic. What I want to know, though, is where does this all fit with my main character, and what's the purpose of me focusing on something that seems pretty irrelevant to my main character's progress? Well, part of her progress is being able to fight monsters and becoming a proficient monster hunter slash slaughterer slash destroyer. And the trouble that she has is she it's not like she really wants to do it. She feels forced to have to engage in violence against these animals. So I'm using them as a tool in a way, you know, to actually help move the story on enough for her, but to also have her be able to make choices that are good or bad, but are also going to help move the story on. I also need her to find a way of being able to work with other people, because it's really integral. I keep saying it wrong. Integral to her actual central character, and I think that she would really benefit from having an opportunity in order for that to happen. So I'm going to put the rain on again while I keep delving a bit more into this. But message me in the chat, let me know, what are you writing on? Are you writing on the particular genre? Are you writing on something that you just started, or is it something that you've been doing for quite a while? Is it something that you know, maybe this is the first time you started writing and you're like, I don't know how to even start. Where do I start with this? I have a blank page in front of me and I don't even know what to do. So one of the things that I did was actually started with that blank page. I had some kind of vague idea of what I wanted to do, what I was going to look at today, and that's it. Now I've already kind of started creating a page. You don't need to have this every single line of writing filled. It doesn't need to look like that. It needs to be coherent enough for you to be able to understand it, so you can then basically interpret what you have written and be able to then move forward. I'll show you a couple of other pages that I've got in this book that are just a bit different from that page. And it's not because they're different because I changed my mind on how to present it. It's just that they meant that I needed to do it differently. So this one I've used post-it notes, and this side I've used a table format. So it really does depend on what it is you're trying to look at. I like with my character designs, I tend to just kind of like get a flood of ideas. I chuck them all onto a page and then I just see where that goes. But it could also be that you're trying to get really organized. And so one of the things that I do to get really organized is if I'm trying to outline some ideas. So what I would do is I'll create a table and I would follow through a particular pathway for those. And as I go through, my ideas develop and grow and change and evolve, and I either add to the table or I remove things off of it, like by crossing it out. You don't have to use a notebook. I use it because I quite like doing things like this, like a scrapbook. I like sticking things in it. So it's entirely up to you how you do it. You don't even have to use one of these. You can actually just use the computer. I like this though to get the initial ideas down. When I've got the flood of ideas up here, I like getting them onto a piece of paper so I have them, because I can then put this away on my shelf and come back to it when I've got a bit more of an idea of where I want to go. So I'm going to turn the rain sounds up again and give you a bit more of an opportunity to carry on doing some writing. Find it there. There we go. Couldn't find the right bit then. Let me do that one. Okay. So one of the things that I do, and I am absolutely rubbish at it, so I will say that now, is I draw. Some of my ideas come out as drawings mainly because it's just easier to kind of like get the idea out onto paper. So I've just done a little sketch at the bottom with some ideas as to where they could live. So I actually got you know, three characters walking down this pathway between two mountains like this, with the Kirin on one side living in caves, and with the dragons on the other side living in the forest. Now, why is that significant? Well, the Kirin would not be able to live in caves because they already have scales that turn to flame. That is their defense mechanism. That's what they do. The dragons have venom, and so they would be most likely needing to live in a forest, because if they're breathing out venom all the time, that happens to be flammable, but also if they're breathing out venom, the last thing that they're going to, you know, want to do is to just be surrounded by rocks and a cave wall the whole time, because they're going to need to be able to breathe just general air anyway. We already know it's a world full of oxygen because humans live there, and so therefore it kind of makes sense. So this is a time if you're not too sure about what to do with your creatures or the animals that you've got, is to hop onto Google and actually do a little bit of research and find out, well, what are other animals doing in the world that we have today? Where did they live? Why did they live in those places? And what that does is it enables you to then have a bit more of an idea as to why certain animals live in certain places. So, for example, we could have a look at some of the animals that we have in our area. And one of the things that was done in this country was a thing to do with birds and the way that British people feed our birds a lot. We love our birds. But the beaks on certain birds are changing because they are actually becoming more efficient at being able to eat nuts that are through the little wire meshes. So that is relevant because that is something that nature has adapted to. So I'm going to give it a little bit more thought whilst you listen to some more rain. And please do share your thoughts, share your ideas. I'd love to hear them. Okay. All right, I'll just quieten the rain a little bit for a moment. Okay, so a couple of things I was trying to work out was, you know, what relevance these creatures have. And so one of the things actually I'll put down here, and this is a tool that I use quite a lot, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. I actually put this down. I wrote, could their flames make the venom explode, with a question mark. Now, the reason why this is a really good tool is because I'm actually asking myself some prompting questions. These are questions that maybe an audience person might hear, or a question that a reader might ask. And why that matters is if your readers are asking those kinds of questions, then odds are you haven't maybe looked at all the options yet. So what I've done is I've started writing a list. So I now actually have got 2 whole pages worth of notes starting to take shape. And what's really nice about doing this method is I have completed a page. Now, it may not be that I've written every single line on that page, and it might be that not all of the space is filled with writing, but it doesn't matter. I've got an entire page of blank space completed with enough information for me to then go on with that and actually then start formulating some questions. So I'll give you an example of some of the questions I've written for myself. So one of them is, what is Ray actually being sent to do? Why is she actually down there? Why is she not on the mainland in the first place? Is it relevant? Is it necessary for her to be there? Does she make friends with any mythological? Yeah. Does she make friends with any mythical beast? Because she has in book 2. But does it mean they're all like that, or does it mean that actually that's the unusual ones? They're the rare ones. The most mythical beasts are actually like quite aggressive. How does it help hone her skills to become a warrior? And this is something I'm trying to juggle with. Does it matter whether she does it alone or with people? Do you become a warrior by being a warrior on your own, or do you become a warrior because you have other people to rely on? And one of the difficulties is that some of that comes out of your own personal experience as well. And this is why lots of authors feel really vulnerable when they're writing, because they write from their own point of view and their own personal experiences and life skills that they've had over the years. And they've all been forged through events that happen in their lives. And so whilst they might not overtly or explicitly write that in their book, there's a part of them in there and part of their own life experiences. It can be difficult. And I don't know the answer to any of these questions at the moment. Does she save any of them? Perhaps that's how she befriends them. Maybe not. I don't know. Are there any other humans? Because at the moment we've only known humans on the islands. So is she the only human, or are they the only humans there? Or how's that going to work? How's that going to look? Okay. And then a big question that I have at the moment is, who is the sage? I have even written it in capital letters here because I don't know. I've put the sage into my story and I don't know who they're going to be. And so if I don't know, that means the reader doesn't know. So that's really good. That's a good place to be, even though it feels different and feels wrong. And then one of the other questions I have is, does Ray ever come to terms about Nayley? Now, I won't give you too many bits of information to do with that relationship. But if you've read my books, or you know about my books, you know who Nayley is to Ray, and you also understand that there is obviously issues that are going on between them. Not because of their relationship, but because of external factors. And book 3 starts to delve into that a little bit more. And book 4 really does start, chipping away at Ray's, focus on what she's trying to do. And another question. what is she actually trying to do? What's the point? So they're my thoughts. Now, one of the things that I've had a slight problem with this evening is I know that people are watching and listening, and I just want to say a huge thank you. So I do want to do a few shout outs to people. So Adam, I know you're listening. So thank you for being an awesome friend and for always being there and for listening along. And there's a few people on my Discord server as well who have actually been commenting as well. But one of the problems I have is I can't find the live chat on my screen anywhere. And I'm so sorry. If you have left me a live chat, what I will do is after this, I'll go back through them and I'll actually try and respond to each and every one of you. If you would prefer me to give you a shout out in the next 5 minutes, send me a message on my Discord server and I will gladly shout you out. It's just I can't figure it out at the moment. So I'm still learning technology. All right, so I'm going to give the last few minutes some more quiet from me for you to do some more writing, and I'll catch up with you in a very short while. All right. Didn't mean to turn it down that low. Ooh, there we go. Slight sound in the background. It's nice and gentle. Okay. I thought I would take the moment just to step away from just doing some solid writing, because I want to stop at this really crucial point where I have got a load of questions and I've got 2 whole pages now filled with work, ideas that I've kind of spread out, and they're not necessarily going to all stick. They're not necessarily going to stay there, and I might scrap the character altogether. It doesn't matter. I've got the ideas down in my notebook, which means I can always go back to it if I am going to, and then expand on it and develop it. one of the things that I do want to think about is what kind of themes I want to bring up in my stories. And that takes a massive part of thought process and time to try and figure out. Yeah, it's easy to choose a genre to write in, but when you've got that genre, when you know that genre that you're writing with, what elements are you going to include in it, and how are you going to make it so it stays relevant, and are you going to keep it in that genre, and if not, why not? Could you blend genres, and if so, how? So there's lots and lots of questions. It's good to question yourself. It's good to be a part of it. And it was a really cool experience doing this. And what I would like to do is do this a lot more. So again, if you're seeing this after the fact, please comment, please get in touch and let me know if you want to do something like this again, and I'll see if we can do these regularly, and I'll get fellow writers involved as well, so you're not just having to look at me on the screen. We'll have other people here as well. But other than that, I am going to say farewell and adieu, and have a wonderful rest of your week, and I look forward to our Sunday show as always. All right, take care. Mwah. Love you. Bye.